So very, very happy to have you here. This is a really amazing opportunity. So thank you. Hi and welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks a lot, Anthony. Yeah, I'm Tim Eustace, Dr. Timothy Eustace, local chiropractor, former state legislator, former mayor of a Bergen County town. Uh, Glad to be having this interview.
Awesome. And how does the LGBT community relate to you?
In many and varied ways. I moved to Bergen County when I was in college a long, long time ago. And at that time, there were several LGBT groups in the county. And shortly thereafter, the AIDS crisis hit, and the LGBT groups sort of disintegrated into help groups that ended up being HIV response efforts. So that's where organized LGBT activism disappeared a long time ago in Bergen County. There were many, many very active, very high powered LGBT advocates, and they had to respond to the AIDS crisis. And we never constructed any cohesive group after that. So I think that's when everything disappeared. And I think that we definitely need some sort of real presence in Bergen County. We're the most populated county in the state. There's probably lots and lots of LGBT people, LGBTQ people who feel there's no place for them to go. There's lots of activism and activity in South Jersey, but really no real presence in North Jersey. And I think we really need to do that. I have to tell you that I was the first out gay legislator elected to the state and the first out gay mayor elected in Bergen County. And it's disappointing that there's very little LGBT political representation. So if we can just move this to get people back out in the forefront and recognize that we need a voice, hopefully this will help.
Yes. And I know that they're creating an LGBT caucus. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So they're starting to move in that direction.
Which is great, which is wonderful. There are LGBT representatives in local towns. Bergen County has 70 towns, and I think there's maybe 2 or 3 LGBT people. So we need to do better about that.
Yeah. And so the question that I would like to ask you is, why do you think there is no LGBT center in Bergen County? And also, what are the barriers or possible barriers for opening something like that up?
Let me answer the second question first. I don't think there are barriers. I think the county executive would actually be helpful in that. And there's lots of LGBTQ people in county offices. So I think that would be a great idea to push. The first question, though, I'm afraid I'll disappoint you, is that there is an awful lot of apathy and resistance to getting involved in what I consider the next 2 or 3 generations from me.
No, that's not disappointing. That's exactly what I'm seeing. And this is, I don't have this is a genuinely like mystified what's going on. So I'm generally asking us to find out what is going on, to raise awareness, right?
Right.
So whatever it is, it is. And
well, let me posit this, if you don't mind, Anthony. I think that there's no crisis to respond to. So there are people still ill with AIDS, but it's a chronically manageable disease. Yeah. We have more rights than we did when I was coming up and coming out. So there's no crisis in that area. We adopted our kids 3 decades ago, and it's de rigueur these days for gay folks to be able to have kids. So there's no real crisis to respond to. Of course, there is, but visibly, there's no crisis to respond to. There's certainly many, many things we need to deal with. More than half of teen suicides are LGBT related. LGBT seniors are sort of left in the background, although the governor just signed a bill to protect LGBT seniors. It's not seen as a crisis. And there's all these people in the middle that don't see a need to get involved. And I think we need to maybe have some sort of publicity around that.
And thank you for saying that, because that's exactly, like, look, my arms like raising hairs on them. That's exactly what I think. I think you're absolutely right that there's a disconnect between the people that are in power, especially the LGBT people that are in power, and actual needs. And right. So part of this is to raise awareness, not to straight people only, but to everyone, the LGBT community within itself.
Right.
Um, you know, I don't even know how to start. Like, we have crystal meth going around. That's a real thing. And I'm trying to raise awareness saying, okay, so this is happening, but they're looking at it. It's like, well, that's your problem. I was like, no, this is a county problem because they
Right.
become infected because of the unprotected sex with
Right.
HIV and AIDS. That who's going to pay for that, right? We're going to end up having to pay for that person's medicine for the course of their life, so that can come out to like $1 million for one person. I don't know about you, but I don't think we want to have a handful of them, and that's a couple of $1 million right there.
Exactly.
So it's like there's a cost to to being to not paying attention to these needs, and to the community itself, and also to the larger community.
Right.
And for older, or from like my generation up, that are saying we got marriage equality, we have grinder, so what's the need? you know
Right.
well,
Right.
what happens if you fall through a crack and you
Right.
don't even know where to get any kind of resources? We don't have a safety net anymore. So I'm trying to make people aware that we're really in a precarious situation here, and
I agree with you. And I think maybe get a small group of people together and make a proposal to the county executive, who I think is very open-minded about these things. And just to expound on what you were talking about, it's not just HIV, it's the increase in syphilis and gonorrhea. And some of these diseases are untreatable.
yeah. Oh, I lost your camera.
Right? Yeah, hang on one second.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, to look at that, to look at homeless youth, that the human, and you got me really flustered because I'm just like shocked to be talking to you. The HRC campaign, they said 20 to 40% of homeless youth is LGBT. You
Right.
know, that if that's not handled properly, that becomes more mental health, more addictions, more incarceration, as they get older. And then you see crystal meth playing in, you see heroin, opioids, and alcohol. So we see these problems, and we need to do something. We really do. Never mind the fact, if for the transgender community, where they're starting to come around, but we're living in a desert for the transgender community.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And it's very good that the gay community has come around to support the trans community, because it's been a long, long road where we have to face our own discrimination.
Yeah, and that's, once again, that's another part of this, is to highlight that this is an umbrella, right? It's not just effeminate gay men from the 80s. You know what I mean? It's like the image when they say gay, and I say that to within our community and outside of our community. It's we have to look at everybody. We have to look at the lesbians. We have to look about the inequality to the transgender, and then the other people that don't have representation, that are
Right.
popping up. And, we need to be fair and equitable to everybody, so this isn't just about gay men. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
about everyone
Yeah.
getting their piece of the pie, kind of a deal.
Agreed. I'm really happy that you're pushing this.
I'm really, really happy to be talking to you. If you know of any venue, because like you were saying, I talk to people and their first response is, we can't talk about it. This is too controversial. And it's like, saying gay in 2021 is not controversial. And I'm not
Exactly.
if I was to rephrase this as disabilities, and going to an agency saying, what is your protocol on disabilities, what are the services, what is what is the barriers, what's going on, no one would think twice. So why is that
Right.
with LGBT? What are you
I think
projecting?
it's odd that someone would consider it controversial. It's not controversial at all.
I've been meeting a lot of that. Like, people refuse to
Hmm.
talk to me. Flat
Wow.
out. They just won't talk. And I'm not talking about private citizens. I'm
Right.
talking, about within, agencies, or they say there's no need, there isn't a problem. I've had people sit there and tell me there's no problem. we don't see gay in our community that are part of the service, and I'm not quite sure how to handle that.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know?
I'm sure we could find advocates in the freeholder now commissioner community who would help us move this forward.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I don't want to hold up too much of your time. So I just want to ask you, you know that this is being recorded, you know that this is going to be public and that you give consent.
Sure, of course.
And I'm going to send you a link to the web page that I'm creating, and you can look at it throughout the entire at any time, so you can see how it's looking, and you can ask me to take it down at any point, and I'm happy to do for any reason or no reason at all. Just allow me.
Thanks.
You
I don't look at myself on video or film, so
know.
whatever happened happened.
I mean, I plan to create a web page of just all these interviews and release
Great.
it on Pride. And I plan to do a paper talking about the numbers and then applying them to Bergen County. So
Good.
like, what is if we have 20-40% homeless youth, what is that in a population of a million? How many homeless youth, and then how much of that is LGBT, and start looking at numbers so people can understand what we're talking about.
Good. Good. And I do suggest that you contact some of the county commissioners for them to be on camera as well.
I spoke with Tracy Zersi. I'm
Uh,
going to see her tomorrow.
Great. That's who I was going to suggest first of all.
Thank you.
And reach out to Jermaine Ortiz or Tommy Sullivan. I mean, I think everybody would help you with this.
That's really great. I think I'm gonna to do that. And before we finish, I just want to say how blessed we are as a community, and how awe I am of you because of your life and the things you've accomplished and done in your life. We are so blessed to have you, and I just want you to know how much this means to me, just as a person, an LGBT person, and thankful for having you in our community, in our life.
Thank you. That's very sweet. I don't think I do anything more than anybody else, but thanks.
Well, just representation alone, but you've done far much more than that. With your family, with what you've done, the heights you've reached. You're really, really a force of good for us, and I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thanks, Anthony.
Okay. I'm gonna end the recording now.
Okay, thanks.